Greetings, super friends. Jonathan Levy here, and I am with the famed Joe Polish. And stick around because in this video, we are going to learn what, out of all the millions of different things from the world's top influencers, Joe actually does in his daily routine to stay on top of his game. Welcome, everybody. Jonathan Levy here, and I am with my good buddy Joe Polish of Genius Network and Piranha Marketing and about a million other things. And I have a really exciting question for Joe today. As you know, I'm all about the superhuman hacks and tips and tricks, and nobody in the world knows more superhuman people than Joe Polish. As you can see in the background, he's good buddies with Ray Kurzweil and Peter Diamandis and Tony Robbins, and I don't think there's anyone you don't know.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot, but the ones that I think I need to know, I would like to hope that I know them, and I'm friends with most of them.
So I want to ask, you've known these people for decades at this point. Mm-hmm. You're on close personal basis with all of them. You can't possibly do all the stuff that all of them preach. I mean, you've got me with memory techniques, and you've got Wild Fit, and you've got Tony Robbins and all of his stuff, and Peter and all of his stuff. What stuff actually sticks? What do you actually do in your daily routine? I mean, especially given your history with health challenges and addiction challenges and all the things that you've overcome to get to where you are in your physical and mental and emotional performance. So what are the things you're doing?
You know, I think the reason that books and courses and seminars and just constantly filling my head, and I would hope the people that are watching this, their own heads with anything that gives them capabilities or helps them get more clarity or feel more capable or more confident, kind of keeps you in an upstate. It's the same way that you would go to the gym and exercise. Consistency is more important than a super intense workout inconsistently. I mean, you're not going to eat a single meal that's healthy and then all of a sudden you're healthy either. I mean, it's a daily sort of thing. So over the years, there may be certain themes of what is important to me and the things that I follow, and then different people that have different expertise and different perspectives. So just the foundational things are eating as clean and as well as I can, exercising, getting sleep, obviously hygiene, I'm like sort of a clean freak, and just, cutting all ties with dishonest, negative, and lazy people.
Right.
So, I mean, I think if you, and there are certain people that I've learned certain things from, but I wouldn't want to be them as a person. Because there's a lot of people that dispense advice. There's this line I heard many years ago that if you invalidate the message because of the messenger, you'll never read another book or attend another seminar.
So true.
Yeah.
So true. That was one of my big takeaways in Genius Network is like, you meet someone like a Joe Polish, and I'd listened to your podcast for quite some time, and you're like, man, I'm sure they're going to have it all figured out. And then, like, everyone has their thing, right? You with your email inbox. Mm-hmm. And I talked about this in a podcast, specifically with the context of Genius Network, that, like, every single one, I think I was interviewing another Genius Network member, every single one of the people who you think have it all together, they have problems just like yours, they just have better problems. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like your better problem is too many people want to be in contact with Joe Polish.
Exactly. I mean, I'm not laid up in a hospital bed. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that, and let's look at expertise. I mean, if you think of what is an expert, it's just someone that happens to know more about a particular area than you do.
Right.
I mean, I could be, and which I will be for the next 2 days. We're going to be in Genius Network, and I'll be facilitating and curating some incredibly bright, smart people. And I could, drive away from here later today, and if a tire blew out on the freeway or something, like I'm terrible at that. I'm inept. I'm pathetic, right? And if someone came along, they probably have a lot more expertise in that area. I'm not a mechanic. Right. I don't know how to do electrical work. I mean, there's a lot of areas where I just have no skills. If someone said, "Okay, Joe, you're in front of an audience of thousands of people speaking," which I have been, get up there and bedazzle them with some wisdom about marketing, I could do that. No one's going to stump me. But if they said, "Here's a guitar, go entertain everybody for an hour," I would be like, "Oh my God," I would have, imposter syndrome. I would have worse than that because I have no idea how to play a guitar. Right. So there's you got to look at every area of your life where you have skills and you have strengths that you can leverage, and what are the rituals, and you're a master at this. I mean, you teach people all these different, but it's how to think about it. Because here's the thing, though. I mean, Dan Sullivan, who's the founder of Strategic Coach, one of our Genius Network members, and just a dear friend of mine, he has this great line where he says, "The problem is not the problem. The problem is how you think about the problem."
Right.
And so a lot of the problems we have in our life are they really problems or are they actually opportunities?
Right.
I went to this health resort. I'm trying to think of what the name was years ago, and there were people that would go to this place that had just stage 4, diseases, and have been told they're going to die. There's nothing else can be done, and they would go to this place and they would be given, they would fast. They would give them, nutritional food, and once they went through a certain period of fasting, a lot of stuff. And one of the things that they mentioned was you can't refer to what you have here as a health problem or a disease. We want you to refer to it as an opportunity.
Wow.
If you have cancer, it's a cancer opportunity. It
Wow.
was really interesting when I first was listening to this on day one. I was like, and I didn't have any, life-threatening disease. I was just there,
Right.
looking at different ways to optimize my health.
Wow.
But I really thought it was quite a fascinating perspective on how to look at it. So whatever area of your life you're really screwed up in, or at least you think you are, in the same way that if you have body pain or something's going on, it's all a message. It's trying to make you aware of something. So,
Right.
and
I love that. Now, you're an investor. I feel like every time I discover a new health thing, I talk to you about it, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm an investor in the company. So what are the things in health, fitness, personal growth, personal transformation that you're excited about, that you're seeing with your network? I see you're wearing an Aura ring right now, as am I. True Rest, you float a lot. Sensory deprivation, float. What are some other things that you are excited about?
Well, here's what's interesting. I've seen someone recently say that meditation apps and mindfulness and anti-addiction and related things are what online dating was 20 years ago. So there's all these people that are getting into this world. But I was on the phone for about an hour and 15 minutes last week with Bob Roth. And Bob Roth runs the David Lynch Foundation. He's very very involved with TM.
Right. I just completed TM.
Yeah,
like
which
4
is
months ago.
Awesome. Okay, well, this is good for us to talk about this. So it's transcendental meditation. He's the one that trained Oprah. He's trained a lot of the Ellen DeGeneres, and his buddies with Seinfeld and Paul McCartney. I mean, this is the guy that trains some of the highest level successful people. Ray Dalio does TM, and Hugh Jackman, and Russell Brand, and all of these different. I introduced David Bach, who the Smart Couples Finish Rich, all the Finish Rich series, The Automatic Millionaire. He's got a new book out called The Latte Factor that's coming out. And, so David has been on Oprah multiple times, has seen everything, sold over 7 million books. And I introduced him to Bob Roth a few years ago, who trained him in TM.
Wow.
And David said, this is the single most valuable thing that I've ever done.
TM.
TM.
And you do TM as well.
Yes, yeah. Which is, it's a 20-minute meditation twice a day.
Right.
I don't do it every day, twice a day. And some days I don't do it at all. It just depends. It's one of those things. When I do, though, I certainly feel better. Now, why am I bringing that up? Because there's a lot of people that are trying to use technology to hack the system and mindfulness. And it's a double-edged sword. Right. Because if you have to rely on an app or a phone or a technology, or in the future some machine learning AI algorithm built in with augmented reality, and I don't know how well you're going to do in the wild if you're ever stuck in that situation and there's no Wi-Fi or something.
Yeah.
But what I was saying to Bob, I said, I think the apps and all of these technologies will get you to the door. Yeah. But real human connection actually keeps you in the house.
Totally.
You know what I mean? So a lot of it's interesting because it's just going to give us more capabilities that we never had before. Because a phone, as an example, is, as Ray Kurzweil calls it, your extended brain.
Right.
And so people are like telling their kids, stay off your phones, adults that never grew up without it, which is, of course, stupid, because how would you expect a young child who's been born in the last 15, 20 years to know any other world?
Right.
And so, there's this whole thing about just how connected we are to these devices. But a lot of people put your phone down. Right. Well, that's like saying put my brain down. It's like a thumb. I mean, if you're without it, you feel. So how do I think that's going to help people? I mean, look at what it's enabled us to have access to, simply just at knowledge and calculations and figuring things out. You have a question, you can ask your. You don't even need to touch it. You can just talk to it, right?
Well, Elon Musk said, you're already a cyborg. It's just the interface between your phone and your brain is very bad. It's two thumbs or it's voice.
Right.
But when it's deep integration, that's when things get really interesting. I also think you're absolutely right. I mean, we had a challenge in our mastermind with our mutual friend, Ariel Garten, who does Muse.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, there is that fine line between using technology like this.
Right, the youre ring.
Which this actually isn't going to make you sleep any better, but it will definitely help you understand that you need to sleep better, and it will diagnose that you're not sleeping better. And the same is true with the Muse. It's like, it's not actually going to get you to sit down and meditate. You have to sit down and do the damn meditation. If it motivates you using gamification to actually sit down and meditate. And I think that's the same way the Oura Ring works.
Right.
It's like people are now going, Brandon, who is in Genius Network as well, our team member, is now motivated to go to bed earlier and get up earlier because he's trying to gamify and get above 95 on this, you know.
Right.
And I always say, like, a lot of these technologies, I know that they're using, you know, it's like Dan Ariely's stuff, right? It's like predictably irrational. They're using these cognitive biases against me, but they're using them in my favor. And I'd rather this kind of trigger my dopamine and desire than Facebook or Instagram or all that other stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and there's a lot of books, and I mean, you've got, you know, you're really great at this. There's a lot of books, like my buddy B.J. Fogg, who is, you know, a behavioral professor at Stanford, who's brilliant. A lot of people have written things based on his work, such as Nir Eyal, who wrote Hooked, who also I've had on the Genius Network podcast. I've had him at the annual event. And then there's a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear, I believe. You know, a lot of his work's based on B.J. Fogg. And so there's people that are looking at habits and rituals and what, you know, what hooks people. And I was talking to Nir Eyal about, you know, doing a book called Unhooked, because how do you unhook yourself from these sort of, you know, technologies? Because on one hand, they can enable you or they can enslave you. And if you look at, so much of the work that I do in the area of recovery, because a big part of my life is addiction recovery, there is, you know, there's this so much rampant technology addiction and people staring at screens. Sleep is worse than it's ever been before. Workaholism is greater than it's ever been before. Gambling addiction, gaming addiction, pornography addictions. I mean, and those are all a result of the dark side of technology.
Right. And they're all socially acceptable addictions.
Many of them, yeah.
Which makes it way harder.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. And what is an addiction? An addiction is doing something you don't want to do, or actually you do want to do, and not being able to stop, that has negative consequences, right? And so there's a million different ways to define addiction, but the way that I would, you know, people are like, well, I want a positive addiction. Well, I always associate anything as an addiction as suffering, because it causes suffering. So if you look in areas of your life where you're suffering, what can you do in terms of hacking that, if you want to use that term, or what can you do to, you know, set yourself up to not be drawn into the dark side?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned technology addiction, because we're working on a digital declutter course. I was actually inspired by sitting with you and Eunice, your team member, and I was just like, this is really hard for people. It's really hard for people, and it causes a lot of anxiety. So we're working with a friend of mine, Maya, on a digital declutter course, and of course, we can't shy away from all this addiction stuff, because that's where it really comes down to, right? It's like, you need to get to digital zen, and that isn't just cleaning out your email inbox. That's also filtering out the noise and overcoming that addiction, so you can actually put the devices away. So.
Yeah, and that's really hard. If you were to put people under brain scans and just watch what is going on in their brains while they're on Facebook, while they're on Instagram, while they're on any form of social media, the only thing that, and I'm aware of it, I mean, they're doing different tests, and I mean, we are modern day in many ways with some types of surgeries on things that happen to the body. We're in the medieval times in terms of understanding the human mind.
Right.
So there's always new things that are being discovered. I mean, we're simply monkeys that drive cars, right?
Yeah. We know more about the ocean floor than we know about our own brains. It's crazy.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
And so, you know, the thing with just trying to understand what triggers the brain is, as far as I know, the only thing that makes the brain light up quicker than pornography is like crystal meth.
Right.
When someone sees sexual imagery, it is boom. It is, and then you look at what's going on culturally with sexuality, and so much of this is reptile brain drivenness, and there are so many companies and organizations that want to hook that. I mean, if you look at videos, I mean, music videos, if you look at movies, if you look at
Totally.
billboards.
Totally.
I mean, we are constantly being thrown addictive temptations
Yeah.
while we're simultaneously in a world where everyone's wanting everyone to behave in a certain way, and they don't even look at their own shit. They don't look at how they misbehave in certain ways, and they're real quick to throw stones at everyone else that, I find your behavior despicable, and they don't look at their own behaviors. And so my whole thing is, how do we bring a level of acceptance? And that actually starts with connection. So, I mean, I think a big part of what we're, the more you're connected with your body, with your mind, with your spirit, with others, the less you're going to react to life, the more you're going to respond. And we're more connected electronically, digitally, than we ever have been in human history, but we're more disconnected as humans in what we would call areas of the modern world.
Totally. Totally. And yeah, I mean, we're also producing a course for Barbara Annis from Gender Intelligence.
She's a brilliant woman.
Here. Brilliant woman.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you're talking about. I mean, all these sexual harassment behaviors, they all come from a lack of connection, not just between men and women, but also men and other men.
Yes.
And so I read through her whole course, and she's recording it this week. And it's just fascinating.
And she'll be here this week, too.
Yeah, and the solution is exactly like you said, it's connection. It's actually building relationships that foster the appropriate type of communication.
Yeah, so using that, if you could think of what sort of technologies or things actually enhance the ability for you to be connected, they expand you, they don't contract you.
Right.
And that's a real trick too, because so many companies, I love marketing. I mean, I think of selling as influence, and I think of marketing as storytelling. And you can use it in incredibly beneficial ways to enroll and engage people, or you could use it in evil ways.
Right.
And there's this interesting video that is a B-roll that was recorded years ago, maybe 6-7 years ago, and they were interviewing me for a documentary, and they were just asking me questions. And one of the guys that works for me, named JR, watched 30 minutes of B-roll and took this 3-minute and 50-second clip and just popped it on our YouTube channel, and it was me answering the question, is selling evil? And they asked me, is selling evil? And I said, well, my favorite definition of selling came from my good friend Dan Sullivan, which said selling is getting someone intellectually engaged in a future result that's good for them, and then get them to emotionally commit to take action to achieve that result. And so I said, if you take away the words good for them, then selling could be evil. Because, if you think getting someone intellectually engaged in a future result and then getting them to emotionally commit to take action. Well, how many companies and products and services that really aren't good for people, but everything that they do is enticed to get them intellectually engaged and emotionally committed to smoke that cigarette, drink that alcohol, watch that pornography, eat this crappy, shitty food, right? That just is not even real food. It just
food like product.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of it is presented to people as it's actually going to benefit your life, and it's really not. And that's why so much marketers get a bad rap. And there are bad players in every industry. It's not that the whole category is bad.
Sure.
Saying marketing is bad, what I say in this video, people can Google it if his type is selling evil. I say it's like saying oxygen is bad. If you have a business that's gasping for air, they probably don't have enough clients.
Right.
So, you need to get more clients. And how do you do that? They aren't going to fall out of the sky. You got to do it through marketing. So the sales jobs that people need to do on themselves are, what do you want your life to be? What's your value system? What's important to you? What needs to be handled? And just look at the results that you're getting from stuff and beware of what you take as truth. I mean, you should question everything within reason. I mean, until you have enough evidence and results in your own life to say this actually helps me, because there's not one medicine that's good for everything. There just isn't.
Totally. Last question for you before I let you go. How many books are in this room?
It's right over 2,200. And the retail value of them, because some of them are collector's books that are you can't even buy. A couple of these books in here are worth over $1,000. The value of all these books of replacement is $88,000. Because when we had all of them put into an online tracking system and scanning them all, so there's $88,000 worth of books. But this is, in this particular office, I probably have, this is an 11,000 square foot building where my headquarters are, and I own this building. But we probably have close to $1 million in
books,
in courses, books, trainings, videos, everything that I've spent over $2 million on my own marketing education, and that's been a really good investment, not just for myself, but I've been able to so many things that I've learned, I've been able to teach other people, and from what we can even loosely track my marketing strategies, which isn't even as important to me as the things I do in the
Right.
field of addiction recovery, have generated at least $2 billion in revenue for my clients that we can loosely track to my strategies.
Incredible.
So I don't know the impact of it all, but the thing is, I don't know. Not everyone that is a reader is a leader, but I don't know any leaders that are not readers. That's the quote.
Awesome.
And so, and it doesn't have to be reading. You can listen to audiobooks. You can
There you
watch
go.
your courses. That
Yeah,
sort
we
of thing.
we teach a speed reading course.
Yeah. And you know what? Just
One
that
of
you
these
said
days,
that, that's something that you're so much better at than me, and I'm going to actually have you spend some time.
one
with
of
me
these.
because
Well, we can do it today.
we could. Yeah, we'll spend a few minutes on that today. Thanks, brother.
Thank you.
All right, super friends, that is all for this week's video. If you guys would like to learn more about accelerated learning, speed reading, memory, or any of that good stuff, well, do take a moment to check out a completely free trial of my Super Learner Masterclass. You can just hit the link below, no credit card required. Also, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. Thanks for tuning in. See you guys next week.